Reflection Friday of the fall semester. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Farid and Alex, for being here. Reflection Fridays was formerly part of the Center for Social Entrepreneurship Programming and is now part of the broader programming of the Innovation Hub. We have about 16 different programs that run out of our center. These conversations, the program began as a way to facilitate and reflect on conversations on what matters to people around the community and why. If you are interested in learning more about the Innovation Hub program, I have a sign-up sheet that will go around the room. Please just put your emails down. We send a weekly newsletter about the various programs that come out of our office. These conversations always start with the question, what matters to you and why? And we give the speaker and the interviewer about 35 to 40 minutes to navigate through that conversation and then open up the last 20 minutes of the conversation for questions and answers with the audience. Please feel free to get up and move around the room. There's lots of food left over. This is definitely meant to be an informal chat. And with that, yes. We are accepting nominations for the Spring Reflection Friday series. We'll be sending, what's the link? The Go link. Go/Reflection Fridays. If you go to Go/Reflection Fridays, you can nominate anybody. You can be a faculty member, staff, a student, or a member of the community to give one of these talks. We are accepting nominations until the 16th of November. So please try to get those in. With that, we will leave it to Farid and Alex to kick it off. Enjoy it.
Alright, so I'm Alex, I'm a good friend of Farid's, and we'll be helping kind of facilitate this conversation. So I guess we're going to get to the question, what matters to you and why, but I think to predate that, tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how you got to Middlebury to begin with.
Well, first of all, it's great to be here, and thank you, Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, and PC and Heather for giving me this opportunity to talk about what matters to me and why. So really great to be here. So I was born in Afghanistan before the Taliban takeover, and then when I was 2 years old, we moved to Pakistan, and I kind of grew up in Pakistan and Afghanistan. And then when I was 16, I came to the United States for an exchange program. The exchange program sent me to Maine in the middle of February, and they thought that was a great idea. And in this very small town called Woodson, which was completely very different from my image of America. You know, you hear about San Francisco, New York, and then you end up in Woodson, Maine. And then I really enjoyed my experience during those 6 months, and I decided to stay in America, so I went to high school in New Mexico, international boarding school, and my roommate, who was a year older than me, 1 grade older than me, he got into Middlebury, Muswa, you guys might know him. He came to Middlebury, and I heard great things about it, so I decided to come as well. And here I am, a senior, just passed with the winter and I.
Was ending up in the U.S. always your big motivation? I know you spent a little bit of time in London as well, got stuck there for a little bit, but was ending up in the U.S. always like your big motivation?
Yeah, so when I was growing up, my father went to Australia as a refugee, and that was back in like 1999 and 2003, and before the age of like Skype and phones. So the only way he could really communicate with us was he would once in a while, when somebody was coming home from Australia, one of his friends, he would send a video recording of himself walking on the streets of Melbourne. He would literally walk around with a VCR on his shoulder, filming these neighborhoods, talking about his shop. He ran a grocery store there, and he talked about like, oh, when you guys join me in Australia, you're going to go to this high school, you're going to end up in this university. And I've never been to Melbourne, but I have those streets ingrained in my head right now. But then we didn't go to Australia, obviously, because the situation in Afghanistan got better, and the Taliban got kicked out, and my dad decided to come home, so we moved to Afghanistan. And but that idea, since I was a child, I from his videos, I wanted to go to a university like that. But that. So, when I was in Afghanistan, like, that ambition kind of died, because the only way, if you're a young person and you think you can go to another country, because the situation back home has increasingly again gotten severe and insecure, is as a refugee, like to, that's how most of my cousins have ended up in Europe. And obviously that's not an option that I was considering, to just jump on a dinghy and go to France and or somewhere else that I didn't know where they were going to send me, getting smuggled basically. But then until my father's a doctor, so he owns a pharmacy, and every now and then we go and help him out. We sell drugs over the counter without a prescription. And one of our neighbors who used to work at the American University of Afghanistan, which opened in 2005, he came and he told me, like, he was like, you're 12 years old and you speak good English, you should go to the YES program, which was the exchange program. And I was like, I didn't know about the YES program, and I asked him about it, and I was like, really? Like, I can go to America if I can have good English, and if I can get into the program? So that's how I ended up in the US.
Awesome. So I guess you found this really cool experience, and it seems like you had a lot of other very good opportunities and like things that just worked out for you. So I think that kind of plays into this big question, like what matters most to you and why, and what have been the foundations for how you can answer that question.
Right. So even though I ended up in Maine, it was a small town, I experienced so much culture shock, but Maine was an incredible experience because it was very eye-opening to me. There I was, 16-year-old Afghan kid who spent his whole life studying. Motivation was to do well in school and learn English and get out of the country and go get a better education until I came to the United States. And there I noticed that after the school, people went and rehearsed theater plays, they played tennis, they went swimming, and all the things that I've not done in my life. And I came with the realization that in Afghanistan, even though it's one of the youngest countries on the face of the planet, 75% is below 25 years old. There's no avenues to use that energy, that youthful energy outside of the school. So we just go to school and there's nothing after that. And here I was in the US looking at a world that provided so much opportunity for its young people to help them grow outside of the classroom. And I just felt like I'd been left out entirely. So it kind of became, from early on, one of my goals to go home and kind of change that situation, to create opportunities for young people to harness that energy in a way that is not being done at home. So in Maine, I played tennis. I'd never seen a tennis court in my life before. I'd never held a tennis racket in my hand. And I really loved the experience. I mean, I also went to watch, I remember when I went to watch a choir concert, the beautiful voices that this was the first time I was hearing men and women in harmony singing very beautifully. I had tears in my eyes. It was so beautiful that I was like, every time I experienced one of these things, I was like, why don't we have this at home? So that summer I went home and with my friends, we built a tennis court at a girls' high school, and that kind of became an early on sort of, like I said earlier, one of my goals to whatever I've been experiencing in the US that has changed my life in a very positive way. I've wanted to go back home and take that home, but I've not been very lucky with the visa, obviously. So to be able to go home frequently and carry on these projects. But yeah, that's sort of what matters to me right now, and I guess that takes us to sort of the obvious, as some of you may know in this room. What matters to me right now is mountain biking, and I guess we can explore why that matters.
Yeah, I guess the first question is, how did you get into mountain biking? Just for a little background, that's a pretty cool story in and of itself.
Right. So I was somewhere in here. I was going to talk about my time when I got stuck in London. So in my senior year at my school in New Mexico, back then I was very youthful, energetic, exploring all the opportunities. I got into this leadership program in London, and it was paid for 2 weeks. They were going to pay for my flight, my hotel, and everything. And I'm just feeling like any other young person. I'm like, yeah, I want to go to London. This is going to be great. But what you need to know is that back then I had a single entry visa to the United States. So each time you leave the country, you need to get a new visa, and this was only a 2-week program. But I shouldn't have gone on this program because if I tell you, earlier I mentioned that I came to Maine in January as opposed to August for the full year was because I couldn't get my visa for the first 6 months, so I missed that entire semester. And so having that experience, a sane person wouldn't go to London for 2 weeks because it took me 7 months to get my first visa. But I went. And I was like, kind of like also tired of this bureaucracy, and I just felt like I deserved to be there like any other person, so I just packed my luggage and boarded the plane and ended up in London and missed my return flight because I didn't have my visa in time, so I kind of ended up a little homeless on the streets of London. I went to see my cousin who was an illegal immigrant still, trying to do his paperwork and doing the black market jobs, and really saw through him. I heard, we spent an entire day just walking around the streets of Burton, which was the city he was in, talking about his journey from Pakistan all the way to France, how he got smuggled, how they were, they like shoved in 14 people in a small van when they were crossing the desert in Iran, and how if they were seen by a Iranian border patrol, they were going to be shot. And how they ended up in Turkey and jumping on a dinghy and getting transported in a trailer with fruits and everything. And it was in London when I realized, like, I'm actually glad I came. Like, this is, seeing this world in a way that I would not have been able to experience otherwise. And then it became expensive. Like, I stayed 4 more weeks, but, I'm from Afghanistan. I can't afford to live in the world's biggest, one of the most expensive places on earth. So it was time to go home, and I found a job. I got involved with 2 expats who were trying to start entrepreneurship incubators in Afghanistan for young people, and because it was such a new idea, they couldn't find any local people. So they heard about me, and we hooked, and they hired me, and I was like feeling great. I was like, maybe I don't need to go back to school. Like, I have a job here, and I'm working on something that I love, but then one day, as I just learned driving, I was driving the busy streets of Kabul, which is insane. You should never do that if you ever end up in Kabul. My phone buzzes, and I pick up, and it's an unidentified number, and from the other end, he's like, the woman was, "Do you wish to go back to the United States?" And I'm like, whoa, I forgot about that. And I was like, yes, I do wish to go back to the United States. And she said, well, you should submit your renewed paperwork. And that's, I did, and I got back in the US after a year just wandering around and experiencing things that I had not even planned, for which I'm very glad, because it sort of made me a bigger risk taker and shaped my worldview in a way that I would not have been able to if I hadn't taken that momentary decision to just go to London. So I had another case with visa. After I graduated from my international high school in New Mexico, I did not want to go home again because of that visa situation. So that was the summer before coming to Middlebury, and I just stayed with my host family in Taos, New Mexico. That's when I saw a random by grace. My host family's son was who graduated from Middlebury, Mackie Franklin. Is a professional man by gracer, and I'd always heard about him. His dad always loves to watch his videos on YouTube. And I would go and see his things, but that summer was the first, because Mackie was always traveling. I never had the opportunity to meet him. But that summer, because I was staying with his family, he was home and he did a race in Angel Fire, New Mexico, and I went to watch his race. And I instantly fell in love with it. It just looked amazing to me. So after the race, I asked Mackie if I could ride it, and he was like, sure, whatever. So I put on the helmet, and I flipped over the handlebar for 5 seconds, because I'd never ridden such a responsive bike. I mean, the bikes that I've ridden the bikes that I rode in New Mexico for commute, like to Walmart, I always opted out of taking the bus. I would take the cruiser bike. Was the ones that you had to pedal backwards to brake. But Mackie's bike, you know, I obviously didn't try to pedal backwards on the bike. I used the brakes and I instantly, you know, like went over the handlebars and I felt great. I was like, this is awesome. This is great. So really, so two things happened that day. A, that I discovered like how much I love mountain biking. Just like every other experience I had with tennis and like, you know, going to see fire, but like mountain biking was really something that hit even closer to me than those. The other thing that I noticed was like, we are the ones who have bigger mountains back home, and you're the ones who are mountain biking. There's something wrong with it. This needs to be changed. So I asked Mackie if I could, he hadn't gone to Middlebury, so I asked him if I could explore this interest at Middlebury. And he was like, yeah, there's a biking club and there's some trails around the town. He told me they go around some solar panels and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, this sounds very cool. So yeah, that's my story getting into mountain biking.
So I guess from there, you just competed at the Collegiate National Championships for mountain biking. So you're a little bit past that falling over the handlebars phase. Do you want to talk a little about your experience like now and how you've gotten into mountain biking and how you might want to go professional and where that stands?
Sure. So yeah, I just got back from competing in the Collegiate Mountain Bike National Championships. I started racing last fall. When I came to Middlebury, the first year was really difficult because mountain biking is a very expensive sport, and my motivation to get a student job was like work there and get some money, and I never made it happen because over the breaks that money gets spent because we don't go home and all that. And then in my second year, I was very fortunate because my friend, one of my friends at the cycling club, gave me his bike. And in the beginning, I just started riding. My idea was like, I'm just gonna ride, I'm gonna have fun, and then I'm gonna start talking to the industry about my interest in taking this home. I didn't have racing inspiration until I went to Colorado last summer and spent my summer in Boulder and rode the trails there. And what I noticed so I had another epiphany, sort of an epiphany in Colorado. It was when the Olympics were happening. And I was one day sitting in the room, with another Middlebury alum who I lived with and watching the Olympics, and I realized that mountain biking was actually in the Olympics. And then it kind of dawned on me, I was like, we need to send people to the Olympics. Because if we are going to make mountain biking popular in Afghanistan, that's the only way we can do it, is if somebody makes it there and all of a sudden everybody's curious about it, to hear people just would fall in love instantly if somebody makes it. And then I also started riding some very technical trails in Colorado, and I started feeling good about myself, and I thought about racing, and I also just decided I want to, right there, that I wanted to go on this path to try to go to the Olympics. It was in 4 years' time. I was a novice. I had only just ridden for fun, but I wanted to see if that was possible. Again, it's not something that a sane person should do because I was 20 years old in Colorado. It had already been a very tough journey. But there was two things that convinced me. First of all, that I thought about the incredible opportunity here I had with cycling. And I thought about what are the chances that an Afghan young person comes to the United States. There's not many of us. There's probably 100 of us in any given year in the United States. And for their host family to have a professional mountain biker in their house. Because I'd been in the sport, it almost became sort of like moral, what's the word? A moral obligation, thank you. It sort of became a moral obligation that I have to walk this path. Even if I can't make it, I'm going to try going down this path in order to pave the way for other people. And that's when the idea of racing got into my head, and I got back to Middlebury last year. I went to a lot of collegiate. I bought a car for $800 in Colorado because cycling is a club sport here, and there's not a lot of resources there's some resources, and we've been very grateful this year for a lot of changes. But last year, if I wanted to go to these races, I needed a car. So using my tax returns, I bought a car in Colorado for $800. And 2 mechanics that I went to, they said, do not drive this car across the country. I got my driver license 2 weeks before my trip. And then after that, I drove through Kansas and Missouri and all of that, and made it to Vermont. And then went to all these collegiate races where I had good results. And that result also became a motivation to realize, like, okay, I have some sort of talent in this. If I put hard work, let's see how much I can go. And it's not like, I decided that I wanted to go on this journey and I can absolutely do it. It's just like, go try it and see how far you can go, and if you can't, that's fine. Great season last year, and after that I came, when the season ended, I wanted to train more under a more structured training regimen. So I talked with Aaron Quinn, who's here, and through his help, I was able to connect with Andrew Johnson, who's the Nordic ski coach, and he's sort of been he's been training me like a Nordic skier, but and the spring and the summer, I started following his hour plans and spent my summer in Northeast Kingdom near the Kingdom Trails, working on a farm at the same time, and training, and did some races. Have been doing my catting up, which is from one category to the other after you receive a certain number of points, and was very excited about this the second collegiate season of my life, which was this past season, and qualified to go to the collegiate nationals, which was a very hard race. I struggled a lot. I did my best, but there's a lot of fast riders, and it was an incredible experience to see everybody's talent and to see how much, where I need to, where's the level, and if I can catch up, let's say.
So how does this fit into your master plan in bringing mountain biking to Afghanistan and your program Mountain Bike Afghanistan?
Right. So, just to remind you guys, when I got into mountain biking in the beginning, it was not about racing for me. It was more about the mountain bike up myself. I wanted to take this home. But racing sort of evolved, and it was a way for me to, it was a way for me to gain more leverage when I'm talking to other people. If I'm a good racer, if I've done well, then I can do this, and I can talk to people and get, especially the people in the biking industry, together. So again, with the visa situation, I haven't gone home in 3 years. Last time I went home was when I got the mid-challenge, and I went home and implemented an entrepreneurship program after my freshman year in Kabul. So the visa issue is always there, and I haven't been able to go home. But even then, from afar, I've been trying to figure out ways that I can support cycling in Afghanistan. And by no means I'm the first person who's interested in mountain biking. There's already, the interest is brewing back home. I'm aware, I'm connected with people who are doing it. People who ride without helmets, for example. People who just sort of figure out a way to do it. And I've been trying to connect with these people from far away. And so this summer, one of the things that I wanted to do was, in Vermont, there's a lot of mountain schools. So there's the Killington Mountain School, there's the Eastburg Mountain School Academy. So the Killington especially has a lot of cycling programs. So one of the things I wanted to do was go and pitch the idea of a scholarship for a couple of young Afghans to participate in their school, and to actually, people who can actually have a better shot at this dream, rather than me, who started at 21 years old and everything. So I've been thinking about those programs. This summer, there was a big mountain bike festival in the Northeast Kingdom, and there was all the industry people, big bike name companies, apparel, and organizations. New England Mountain Bike Association was there. So I just walked in the vendor area with black and white pamphlets about what I'm trying to start. I was the only Afghan, arguably, that day in there. to each of them I pitched about what I'm trying to start, and I invited them to get in touch with, to stay in touch and bounce off ideas of how we can get mountain biking going in Afghanistan. It was successful. I built a very good relationship with Outdoor Gear Exchange in Burlington, Vermont, who donated some helmets that I sent to the people who ride without helmets. And I was going to show you some pictures, but we could, I can, they're also on my website. I can share the website with you. And so, I talked about there's a few other companies that are interested in donating, and it's kind of difficult when you're a full-time student and have been, explicitly focusing on racing outside of school to also juggle this, but it's always on, and I don't want to rush on it. I want it to be organic. I'm talking with Carabasset Valley Academy, which is a ski academy in Carabasset Valley in Maine, to start a scholarship program for. I didn't end up talking to KMS in the end. I talked with CVA, and they're very receptive of such a program. So what that entails is identifying a talent, a skier. The skiing is the other thing in Afghanistan. It's started in the past decade, and it's more progressed than mountain biking. It was started by a Swiss journalist who was down in Afghanistan on duty, and he had a couple days off. So he went to Bamyan, which is the only place in Afghanistan where expats can walk around without the security guard and the armor of vehicles. And it's beautiful because if you guys know the Bamyan Buddhas were in Bamyan, obviously. There's Bamyan has Afghanistan's first preserved land, Afghanistan's first national park. So a lot of expats go there. And so he ends up in Bamyan, and he wakes up one morning and he sees this beautiful hillsides with a lot of snow. And he says, like, what does a Swiss think when he sees hillsides with snow on them? Obviously. So the next year he comes back with 10 pairs of skis and tries to force people, literally like get them back on the skis and try skiing. And nobody's getting into it because their parents are against it. I mean, it's hard to start something that doesn't exist in a place. So what he did, how he was able to successfully start skiing in Afghanistan, he immediately threw a race. And Afghans are kind of like a competitive nature a little bit, so they love the idea of racing. And that's how people got on the skis. And their families came to watch this race, and everybody was trying to get on the skis, and they were falling over. And falling is funny, so everybody was having a great time. And so that's how, that was the first Afghan ski challenge. There's no lifts. People literally walk up the hills, and then they have to come down, and then they come down very fast. So that's the whole race. And the Afghans have outperformed even some professional skiers in there because. So now the Afghan Ski Challenge has grown. Every year people from 30 nations or something come down to Afghanistan to do this Afghan Ski Challenge, which is you walk up steep hills and then you come down on your skis for 35 seconds maybe. And so, but two Afghans really did well, and they were young back then, and the Swiss guy continued bringing support from St. Moritz in Switzerland, and the Afghans, the two guys who I've become friends with, and kind of helped me infiltrate to the cycling community in Bamyan. These two are trying to go to the Winter Olympics this winter. They have been training in St. Moritz for the past 4 winters, and this is their 4th time they're going there. And and that ties into the larger picture of our goal, our shared goal with Sajjad and Alisha, the two skiers, to show a different side of Afghanistan. To show Afghanistan with the beauty of its landscape, its mountains that are so undervalued and not known. Because in Middlebury even I've encountered a lot of people who think Afghanistan is a desert, and there's a very large misconception about Afghanistan's nature. And our collective dream is to show that the beautiful side of Afghanistan and to get ourselves out there for things that we're not known for. And to be at the start line of skiing, mountain biking, and that's kind of one of my dreams and what propels me to work on in this path.
So what's next?
Where
do you go from here?
Yeah, so next, I'm very excited about next year. racing. I'm very excited about learning